Somebody Else's Prince, Part 5. Presently, Princess Gentianella came to a brook that was covered with ice. "Dear me!" cried Princess Gentianella. "It was springtime round the corner, and here I've tumbled into the middle of winter." A fish popped his head through the ice and laughed from ear to ear. Two things that he could do quite easily, for he happened to be a skate. "The seasons have been mixed up in this country ever since we were bewitched 100 years ago," he said. "It's no use being particular about the time of year when there's no one to see what kind of weather you are having. If you stand on tiptoe, you will see summer going on in the next field." "It must be very difficult to know what clothes to put on when you take a walk in this country," remarked the princess. "But of course it doesn't matter what you do wear when there's no one to look at you," she said. "Well, well," said the skate, "things will soon be altered, and the seasons will have to right themselves again. For I am told that Prince Amaryllis is going to marry the witch's daughter, and so this country will be disenchanted at last." "Rubbish!" laughed the little princess knowingly. "Don't you believe everything you are told. The prince is going to do nothing of the sort." She ran away from the skate and the frozen brook, and she ran right into the middle of summer. And she might have gone on running until she reached the middle of autumn too, if she'd not been stopped by an enormous sea serpent who was lying stretched across the road. When the sea serpent saw the princess, of course he flapped his 55 fins at her, and lashed his tail about furiously, and growled in a hoarse, fishy voice. But the princess mistook his fury for politeness. When one has lived in a garden with a wall around it, and never seen a sea serpent in one's life, one is apt to make these mistakes. "I'm very pleased to meet you," she said, with her most charming smile. "I've often wanted to meet a dragon." "She calls me a dragon," groaned the sea serpent, foaming like the sea in a tempest, "and I am connected with the very best family of sea serpents. What will people say next?" "I'm very sorry," said the princess humbly. "You see, I thought, as you were not in the sea—" "I was expecting that," interrupted the sea serpent bitterly. "No one will ever believe in me unless I stop in the sea. It's very depressing." "I'm sure I'm very glad you have come out of the sea," said the princess politely, "because it's given me the pleasure of meeting you. But does it not make you very thirsty to lie in this hot, dusty road?" "Not nearly so thirsty as stopping in the sea and having nothing but salt water to drink," answered the sea serpent. "People do not realize what a thirsty life a sea serpent has to lead. If they did," he added severely, "they would not stand in front of him and ask him so many questions." The princess laughed merrily. "I do not want to stand here at all," she explained, "but unless you move your tail a little on one side, I really cannot get past." "If you do get past," growled the sea serpent, "you will fall into the witch's hands." "Well, that is exactly where I want to fall," cried Princess Gentianella. "Only you must move your tail a little bit more, or else I'm afraid I shall step on it." It was such a novelty for the sea serpent to find someone who was not frightened of him, that he had not the heart to tell her that he was going to eat her up. So he moved his tail out of the way, and Princess Gentianella blew him a kiss from the tips of her little pink fingers and ran on as before. The next person she met was an old woman who was picking thistles in a field. "I wonder why you are doing that?" asked the princess, opening her big blue eyes wide. I'm making an experiment to see if I can find anyone with so brave a heart that the thistles will not be able to hurt it, answered the old woman mysteriously. But does it not scratch your fingers to gather those large prickly thistles? Asked the little princess. Perhaps it does, the old woman said shortly. But who do you suppose is going to gather them for me? She seemed rather cross, but the princess supposed it was because she had prickled her fingers so much. Well, I am in the most tremendous hurry, but I think I can stop and help you, she said. And down she dropped on her knees and began to pick thistles as fast as she could. And when the thistles saw what soft pink fingers they was going to take hold of them, they at once bent back all their prickles and allowed the princess to gather as many as she pleased without giving her so much as a scratch. When she had filled the old woman's apron for her, she began to run off at full speed to make up for lost time, but the old woman called her back. "Stop!" she cried. "Where are you going?" "I'm going to find the witch's daughter," answered Princess Gentianella, looking back impatiently. "Oh, indeed," said the old woman. "May I ask what you want with her?" "I want to tell her not to marry Prince Amaryllis, because he is not her prince, but somebody else's prince," said Princess Gentianella. "Oh, indeed," said the old woman. "And whose prince may he be?" "He is my prince, of course," answered the little princess, laughing happily, and away she ran across the field and into the wood that lay beyond.
And now it is time for all little children to go to sleep. Good night.